what you're saying might be important.
Thank you. But anyway, so that's it, Marilee. I don't know that you have to be here every meeting, especially if you're not able to be here because of circumstances there. We certainly wouldn't want to, I don't think anybody would want to say you gotta be here every time or you're out. I'm not going to be here. None of us are going to be here every time, but it's just the long-term sticking it out and really seeking Father's heart to understand how do we go deeper into the perfection of love. So
Totally up for that. I just don't want to, because it's a commitment. I really feel that being part of the group is a commitment, and being sort of here and not here and here and not here, I feel as if it falls short of commitment, but it's not something that's in my control. So if everybody is okay with that, I'm on for the long haul.
good.
Awesome.
Good.
You can always listen to the recordings if you can't make it, right?
Yeah, the recording should still be up on the group as they were before.
Yeah.
So, Diane, go ahead.
I just wanted to pipe in with Marilee and tell you that I feel your presence. I love your heart, and I would miss you horrifically if you do not continue at whatever part that you are able to. And one thing I am still wrapping my head around and learning is intention creates a frequency, etc., all that stuff. And your intention is you're here. You're here whether you're able to be online or not with us at the moment. And you carry things that I personally am enriched by, and I feel like I need you. And I don't mean to put pressure. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to communicate to you. You're precious, and we love you, and we hold you loosely. But we also want you to know, I'm speaking for the group. Sorry, I'm back into that leader mode. Want you to know how special and how important you are, and that what you carry and what you bring is really beautiful and powerful for me personally. So,
oh, Diane, especially on this day, it means a lot to me. Thank you.
It's like Susan said, she'd be here in spirit. So I responded to her and said, we'll be listening to what you have in the spirit. And she said, thanks.
and isn't that what we're learning in this whole interaction, is keeping our love on? It's one of the things I loved about my season in Reading and at Bethel was, Danny Silk's whole message is keeping your love on, learning how to stay connected to the primary function, which is keeping your love on, even during process. What's more important, being right or staying connected? And I just think that's everything. Anyway, so you can see it's a hot button for me. But I love you. I love you all. And I know that Father has his perfect timing for each one of us, and how much we're here and how much we participate. And even where in our process where we don't fully, how do I want to say this? I just got done with the Dina's class too. So that's always preeminent now as I'm coming in here. I know there's parts of me that may not fully be able or ready to do everything all the time. And so I just want to release that for everybody too, that we know and trust that all of this is under the beautiful, I'm thinking of a sculpture and a sculptor, and our Father is the master sculptor, and he's sculpting our lives individually and corporately. And anyway,
so good. I do want to say,
everybody's
we got about 2 hours on here together, and I was just figured how to calculate that out with 8 people on here, 2 hours. Basically that gives each of us about 15 minutes if we wanted to all share. So So 15, 20 minutes, and just to keep that in mind as we're sharing so that we make room for everybody. Now, John, you said Susan left a message.
Yes, Susan left a message on Kajabi.
Oh, Kajabi, yeah.
On Kajabi, and she said she wasn't able to make it because she had a meeting planned a long time ago
Sure.
that
Okay.
she can't miss.
Okay.
And
I
she
didn't
said,
catch
but
that.
but I'll be there in spirit.
Okay. Very good. Very good. All right.
So
Well,
I responded, we'll be listening to what you have to say in the spirit.
all right. Well, let's go ahead as we did last week, and I think we might continue on this way for the most part, and that is to start with engagement and just see what the Father is doing. So let's go in. Father, we just thank you. And it's funny, I just see us kind of popping in, one at a time, but we're all popping in together right before the throne with Father. And we're all there. And so, Father, we're here. So we ask now, what do you have for us today? Not sure where he's going or where he wants to go, but what I hear are two words. I hear rest and choice.
I hear, love one another as I have loved you. So how did Jesus love us?
My. So for me, it's patience, patience. Like, oh God. So it feels like love goes along with patience. Okay, so I'm learning to love, and I'm learning to be patient with people that I perceive are not very lovable at times. So it's just wait for the process. Like we are all in the process. All right. Hey, God.
Good.
I see us all sitting at his feet. And it's just an expression of being around him and receiving from him and learning from him.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
I'm reminded of when you said that, Melody. I'm reminded of Jesus when he went to raise Lazarus, how Mary sat at his feet. And Martha said, why don't you get Mary to help me? And she said, Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken away from her.
That's
Sit
good.
at his feet.
Good. I almost want to turn the two words around. I said rest and choice. That's the way I heard it. But I feel like also you can turn it around. It's the choice to rest.
The choice to operate out of rest.
So, Father, how's this instrumental in us learning to love, being perfected in love, going deeper than ever before?
I felt like I'm going to back up when John was highlighting the Martha Mary story. What we're choosing to do is not going to be taken away from us. Our pursuit of being perfected in love will not be taken away from us. And the fact that Mary Lee saw us all at the Lord's feet, I immediately saw Jesus as the good shepherd, and even how I envisioned him being, like when he was teaching the Sermon on the Mount, just sitting and instructing. And I just feel and sense he's going to continue to instruct us.
Yeah.
I just had the picture of Jesus sitting in front of us, just getting down to our level with his legs crossed and just enjoying fellowship with us. It reminds me of when I spend time with my granddaughter who's 21 months old. I get down on the floor with her and interact with her. That's what gives joy to her. And that's what gives joy to us in Jesus. He sits with us at our level. Thank you, Jesus. The Father says, hey, don't leave me out. I'm there with you too.
So some things Father is just showing me is, I'm writing my book on choice, and there's two very powerful things that stand out. There's love, of which God is, and choice, which is what he gave in order for there to be love. And that choice, though, also can be used, as I've said many times, it can be used to resist God. Gives you the ability and the right to resist him forever. And yet love in and of itself, it never gives up. It never quits. It chooses to keep going and going and going. And even though some people may choose to keep going and going and going in their resistance to him, that eventually Father, in all his wisdom, he will not control and he will not manipulate, but he does pursue and reason. And through eternity, in his reasoning process, he would eventually bring people to a place where, guess what? Because of choice also means you can change your mind. You can repent and you can go the other way. You can choose a different direction. And so that's the beauty of these two, the two most powerful things in the universe. And yet love always wins. And so, Father, I'm going to ask right now that you maybe I think this is something he's sharing anyway, that Father, I'm going to ask that you would show each of us where we knowingly or even unknowingly, that you would reveal it to us. Where are we choosing to resist you right now, that you could show us and that we could repent? This is going to be a personal and vulnerable day. Where are you resisting, Father? And ask him to go deep with you. What's an area that we can repent and turn, that we're not resisting you, Father? I'll share the first thing that's coming to my mind. It's something that has been bothering me, you might say, for most of my life. And it's still present with me today. And that is, it's not a real big thing, but it works on me. And that is there are certain people that rather than confronting, because I don't like confronting, that's the bottom line. I do not like confronting people. So what that winds up meaning in some cases is that people that need to be confronted, I don't confront. And I don't confront, and I don't confront, and I don't confront until I'm ready to blow up. And then at that point, it's not a good time to confront. So, Father, what is it in me that resists confrontation? There's a fear in there. There's a fear in there. And what happens is that fear is pressed and pressed and pressed so hard that eventually it reaches a point where the fear is overridden by the anger, and the anger takes over, and that's not a good place. So the whole lot less of it these days than there used to be, but it's still there. So Father, what is it that I'm resisting to, in a healthy way and in a loving way, confront people? Okay, so this is not something we have to go down a road for, but he has given me the area that I've not gone, the road I have not gone down him with. He's given me that. So I'm just going to write it down, because this is what I'll spend my next quiet time doing, is asking about what keeps me
came
from
to me,
confrontation.
Gil, is you mentioned, I don't know if it was last week, about your fear of not being liked. So
Yeah.
wondering if that
Ooh.
would tie in together, right? Like fear of
Yeah.
confronting, because then you might not be liked if you get confronted. I mean, if you confront somebody, they might not like you.
That's a big one. Yeah, that's probably a very, very big one. So that'll help in my conversation with Father. Yes, that's,
And
yeah.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
Mary Lee
Again,
wanted to
I'm
say
in the
something.
Go ahead, Diane.
I'm waiting.
Marilee, did you have something?
Yeah, but I'm happy to speak after Diane's spoken. Diane, you go ahead. I will come in after you.
Referring
In a
one
moment, we're
another
going to
in
just have to have the
love.
two of you fight over this, over who.
No.
Prefer one another in love.
Okay, I'll go ahead. It's interesting that you are saying that, Gil, because I often have difficulty in relationships with people. not with everybody. There are people that there's just an openness and a flow and it's easy. But then there are people that I feel as if they don't get me. They hear me incorrectly. And the more I try and explain myself, the worse it gets. And we also polite. And you can't build trust and real relationship without honesty,
Mhm.
Yeah.
without that raw and real component. And there's the scripture that says, speak the truth to one another in love.
Yeah.
So the truth is the truth what is in my heart? It is at least my truth for that moment. My truth might be distorted because of my own life experiences. But even so, it will stay between me and the other person if I don't address it. And it's a very difficult thing, and yet an incredibly necessary thing, I think.
Yeah. You know, and if God could, if he would just keep the people that I don't get along with on the other side of the planet, we'd be all good, but he doesn't do that.
Now you have internet, you can talk to them on the other side.
Right. Diane, go ahead. That's good, Marilee. Thank you.
Mhm. I just was going to say, possibly, Gil, what came to me as you were sharing is the way that confrontation happened as a child was probably not the best version of what that looks like, which can create that protection mechanism. Talk to your wife, she can explain it way better than me, but
yeah,
all of
no,
our
I totally
self-protect-
get that. And yeah, there was a lot of garbage from my childhood. I've been through a ton of healing, but there's always more.
Well, today, for me, even at I want to just share a verse that popped in as we were sitting with the Father, which was the second part of Hebrews 6:12 says, "But imitate those who through faith and patience inherit the promises." And I felt like what Hadassah highlighted, which was patience. I need patience. And I just felt like that aspect is that as we are patient, through patience and faith, will inherit the promise of this upgrade in understanding love and what it looks like. And I think that's the main thing. And just maybe I'll share more about my thing, but right now, as far as what came to me, as far as an area that
Well, yeah,
I resist the Father.
I wasn't intending to everybody focus on just one person right now, but just to be able to share what that area is. Yeah.
I'm gonna pass for right now. Okay. And love you guys.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, this morning I was listening to you share and with Michael and Matt, and you said something that stuck to me. Maybe it relates to this. You said that in the old days, because of your legalistic holdings to the Sabbath, you said you, because one of your elders worked past sunset, you had to fire him. Well, I say you've come a long ways since then. But perhaps maybe now, with your fear of confronting, you've swung the pendulum far away because you don't want that ever to happen again. That you would confront somebody like that and totally push them away. So maybe that's something that you can chat with the Father about. The pendulum has swung sometimes when we're at this side of the pendulum, because of the terribleness of that, we've swung all the way to the other side instead of finding a place of balance in the middle and learning to do it in love and knowing that the Father is in this together with you.
And a big part of it is communication. And even in situations that I currently have, I've upfront said, let's make sure we have this time every week where we communicate. And so, this person has one thing after another, to where I finally gave up at that point, trying to have the weekly meetings. And so I know when Dean and I are traveling for the next week, we leave tomorrow morning, but I know when I get back, because I've been, when I get back, we'll have another meeting and just pray that Father gives me the right words, and it's all good. But anyway, that's one of my areas. So anybody else? What's an area either known or unknown? Go ahead, Diane. You're muted.
Because I took off my glasses. I just had a quick question about what this whole conversation, and that is it possible to speak to that whoever that person might be that you feel a conflict with, or just whatever, is it possible to ask Father if you have permission to deal with it in the spirit to spirit first? And then I'm just asking because I'm learning about that. And so I just wondered if that had, not to circumvent the need to have face-to-face, heart-to-heart, but it's like a whole nother option to try to heal stuff. I don't know.
I've actually kind of upped my game, if you want to call it that, in that area. I'm spending more time kind of meditating in that area and dealing with it in the spirit. So and I'm actually planning to do a whole lot more while I'm gone. So definitely moving in that direction to deal with it at that level. And I'm curious, because I have seen things work themselves out and not even have to deal with them in the physical, because they work themselves out because you dealt with it in the heavenlies.
And I think too, for you, Gil, as a leader, you have that bigger umbrella of response ability and ability to respond that you're walking out and finding your way and navigating into. And anyway.
No, appreciate it.
I was just wondering, I think sometimes, for myself anyways, there's programming in me that makes me respond, or when I was going through that time of having the perspective that I was rejected, walking in rejection. But what is it in me? What is it in you, Gil, that causes you to react to him or her, that is drawing that out of him in response to what is in you that you don't even know is there from in your subconscious? That it's the whole Opono method of forgiveness and repentance,
and to me that is
letting it go.
The way to deal with that stuff that's at that level is through the meditation, to get to the subconscious and the unconscious and the DNA, what's written in the DNA, what's programmed into things that I might not have been physically present, when it was even happening. So yeah,
Mhm.
lots of layers to go through, definitely.
Yeah.
But whether I'm right or not, I feel like I've worked through 85-90% of my junk. The main junk that made me nearly impossible to live with. So definitely in a lot better place. But obviously, I mean, the whole point of this group is, okay, well, let's move beyond it, wherever you're at. Let's be ready to move beyond that now. Yeah. There's got to be keys that help us step into the fullness of what God's doing. There's got to be keys that we can step into, that we can use to unlock what Jesus walked in. And so those are some of the questions. What are some of the keys that Jesus puts out there before us and says, here you go. Use this, and this is going to help you go deeper. If you're willing, it's a choice. We have to be willing to go through some of that deeper stuff, and it's not going to be comfortable. I mean, right now we are in lovey-dovey kind of honeymoon stage of this new phase of this group. It could get really messy. And the question is, are we willing to stick it out if it gets messy? I'm not going to speak that over the group, but if it does, are we willing to stick it out? Because somebody's not going to say something the right way, and it's going to hurt, the other person. That's something that's almost inevitable. So are we willing to stick it out, even though we've been hurt? So just looking for those keys, Father. What do you got for us? How deep do you want us to go today? I have to say, I look forward to this group very much so every week. So it's actually probably the highlight of my week is this group. So Kamal, did you have something?
Me too.
Gil, I have to confess that hurt has already happened to me in this group several weeks ago. It's been quite a while ago. And I had a hard time getting rid of that. It was mulling and stewing and confessing and forgiving and starting all over again. It's we all have areas. I have missed a lot of the teachings of this new movement because I was out of the church for 20 odd years. So I'm catching up on a lot of stuff that I have not heard. And I'm currently busy listening to Arthur Berg's teachings on redemptive gifts. And it is very good. It is very good because it highlights which areas, due to your redemptive gifting, that you might have problems, weaknesses that you might have. And it's been very insightful for me, for myself. I'm still busy with it. But we all have a particular type of personality that is prone to particular types of stuff. It's not even just always our background and the things we've been through. I can be overly sensitive to people's reactions to me. It's something I battle with. I really do. And it's, I've been through Adina's transformations for the past 2 years. And I feel as if there are layers and layers and layers of the same thing that you need to deal with. It doesn't mean if you've dealt with it once that you've done dealing with it. There's deeper levels and deeper levels, and being sensitive, feeling rejected, feeling not heard is just a big part of what I struggle with in life.
Yeah,
There it is.
I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, yeah. And I think, I kind of feel like that a lot of the stuff that most anybody in this group is dealing with are going to be very similar to one another. And I don't know that at higher levels or lower levels, whatever you'd want to say, of messiness. When my life was a really, really big mess before I started learning some of this and moving into it. So having worked through a great deal of it and getting to where I'm at now, I feel like most of the things that we would be dealing with are different. They're to where, wow, it's interesting that word would even come up in my mind. The word I was going to use, so just scratch this off as a meaning, but this is just exposing myself, okay? But the word I was going to use was petty. That's the word that was in my mind. And so that says something about where my mind is still at. And so I had to catch that and stop it. So, but when the purpose of using that is because I tend to, if I'm not careful, I'll look at other people's problems, people that are still kind of mixed up in the muck and the mire, like I used to be, the thickness of it, I still am, but the thickerness of it, the thickerness of it. And to think that is so petty, but it's back to that thing of we're all on the journey and we're all in whatever place we're in. And for me to even use the word petty is a judgment. I'm judging the others as what they're going through is petty. And yet at the same time, we do hope that we're all moving in a direction that is making us healthier and healthier. And to call something petty in this area that we're talking about with emotions and how we respond to things, that's kind of petty, because that's not helping the situation. If somebody were in that place and I used that word, that is not going to help them in that place. So for me, integrity is to even get rid of that word as a term that I would use in this setting, because it's not helpful. I don't say it would be helpful in any setting regarding emotions and our responses to things. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, something that's petty to me might be very major to the person that you think it's petty.
Yeah.
Because we tend to make mountains out of molehills often. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When we look back at the situation, we think it was petty, but when we were in it, it was a big mountain that you couldn't hurdle. Like my problem with rejection was a big mountain at one time in my life. But now when I look back at it, I see it was my perspective and perception that I was receiving from other people. I thought they were rejecting me, but in actual fact, they would never have thought that they were rejecting me.
Yeah.
So you're right. We have to be careful with our words.
Yeah, and I guess it's something I think I'm learning. I'm trying, when I respond to people, I do try to respond in such a way that I'm not using words that are going to inflame a situation or exasperate it. But that's sometimes you're tiptoeing through the tulips, or you're walking on eggshells when you're in that place. But I think sometimes we need to, out of respect for the other person, be willing to walk on the eggshells a little bit for their sake, in order to say something that hopefully will reach them, rather than just like a bull in a china shop, just come in and say what you feel, say what you think, and cause them to break down, move away, not want to hear anything you have to say. And even in that, there's going to be was going to say a balance, but I like the word rest, but find that place of rest where you can say those things and not be pushing the pendulum, the other person's pendulum, one way or the other. That's actually interesting. So I'm thinking out loud. These are thoughts I usually keep to myself, and I'll think through it myself. But yeah, when we are saying things, we're pushing their pendulum one way or the other out of that place of rest. Does that make sense? So, I'm always looking at getting the pendulum to be at rest. Someone can come along, say something, do something, and my reaction pushes that pendulum in a different one way or the other. And then every action then has a reaction, which starts the pendulum swing. Now, if something happens and it pushes that pendulum a little bit, and I choose not to respond or react against that, in other words, pushing it the other direction, and then ideally it can come back to rest if I don't respond negatively. If I respond in love, it brings it back to rest. So I also need to be cognitive of what am I saying to the other person? What am I doing? And try not to push their pendulum one way or the other if there's no reason to. Now, their pendulum may be over here already. And we somehow have to speak words that hopefully can bring them into a place of rest. But if we are just pushing back, then you're just going to swing the pendulum clear to the other side. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I think also it has to do with our very first lesson, the tree of knowledge as opposed to the tree of life. If we judge things as right or wrong, or a small little thing, why do they get upset about that? Because it's such a small little thing. It's value judgments,
right.
And Father says, do not judge, because I know the hearts.
Yeah.
You don't know that person's heart. So any form of judgment can only be external, because we cannot climb into that person's heart. Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
One of the things I've learned in the last few days, delving into the whole Pono thing, was, every time they talk about different stuff, I think about what Jesus said. Like, everything makes sense the way they do it, because Jesus said, be sure to remove the log out of your own eye, and then you'll be able to see clearly to maybe help the other person. But if you work on yourself, like Dr. I did, he found that all that stuff was lifted from the people that he was reacting to in his spirit, being mad because this guy is a prisoner. He deserves to be in shackles. He was a murderer. He killed somebody. But by removing that log that was causing him or me to react, somehow that removed the other person's problem as well, which is totally amazing to me, that when we work on ourselves, because Jesus says, don't judge others, because you're going to be judged the same way if you do. So we need to judge ourselves deep within in order to, it seems like, according to his experience with the mental hospital, it changed everybody's perspective as when he worked on his own.
Yeah.
So he wasn't sending the frequency that was causing them to react. So it stopped them from reacting, because that frequency wasn't coming from me or him. Like the other day I went shopping, and somebody made a comment of something, and I said, well, you just got to stay calm. And this lady came to me and says, yeah, I see that on you. And then I asked her if she would like to have that kind of peace. So then I asked her if she'd ever heard of Ho'opono. And I mentioned to her, they talk about, the divine in you. And she says, I like the way you put that. And then she came and gave me a big hug. Like, thank you. She says, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me, because we all want peace.
Good. It's good. Well, let's hear from some who have not spoken or said anything yet. If any of you who have not spoken or said anything yet would like to speak up, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, I joined some few minutes late. Traveling, and then also took time to connect. And right now I'm sorry because I think my laptop camera have developed some issues.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so let me be off camera for today. Sometimes we ask ourselves, Jesus used some very tough words when it comes to Pharisees and Sadducees, calling them, they are there right before him, calling them hypocrites. So, and I remember there's this word that go and tell that fox that I'm here today, tomorrow when I'm done with this, that good. So, and wow, he is our example, but he reached a place where he used a very tough words. So there are words that I could not just stand somewhere in public and use them. But then there is what he was addressing. So sometimes there are issues. I was reading in one of the writers who had an encounter in heaven, and the Lord was saying, I used those words, or I was confronting them as I did because I loved them. So he didn't do that confrontation or using those words. He did it out of love. So, and he was really trying to help them so that they may come into to see things in a different way.
Yeah.
The other thing, as we speak about communication, there are people who have, even sometimes they tell me, come on, use very tough words, or you say something, and some people, they feel uncomfortable or irritated by it. But if someone comes to me and asks me, why did you say this? I'll be gracious enough to explain myself. So even though we need peace and love, if someone is speaking to you and you don't get them clearly, go to them and let them expound to you what they meant. Because sometimes, like when we are here, we have a limitation of time. I might use a phrase which after this could be irritating to you. But then one wisdom could be, maybe come to me, ask me, why did you say this? And then I'm going to expound myself. And then you tell me, to me, I got it like this. So I think one of the things that we need to do is to get clarity where someone says something or acts in a certain way that irritated you. Just have a candid conversation, because one thing that I do, I know this person, when he or she is reacting like this, he is doing it out of love or some concern. So it's good to go for clarity. The other thing that I have seen help me so much is step into the presence of the Father and lay bare before him. So he will give me the perspective of the person who was speaking and what is in their heart. If they did it from a clean heart, I continue embracing them. If there was something, if they didn't do it from the place of love or clean heart, I have put in my heart, and I have come to understand all of us, we are in journey, and we're in journey of maturity. Maybe in that area, there are things the Lord need to work out with that person. So I just tell God, okay, that's how he responded, because I want to be in a place of love. I surrender him all high into your hands, and I seek from my heart, forgive him. And that's why it's so important for us to understand the paradigm and the operations of the throne of grace and mercy, because this is where if a person is irritated you, it is important for us to learn to step into the throne of grace and mercy. One, to release forgiveness to that person, either they are aware or not. Number two, to receive grace to be with that person. Because when God gives you the grace, you are able to continue rating this person. Because in the presence of our Father, there is no condemnation. He has not been condemned. You are not being condemned too. And that is something that the Lord have helped me upright in my life. And I have seen it lift a lot of pain from me, a lot of worry. So, which I would like to encourage those of us that are here to practice that. Then, as we continue walking this journey, where we are misquoted, misunderstood, or when I speak something and I might share something here, and the phrase and the words that I use, you don't get what I said. I remember, like today, there was an issue that I was handling. I called someone, I told him, I would like you to do 1, 2, 3. So the information that I got later from him, he misunderstood me. What I was requesting him, he received not the way that I wanted. So I said, this man did not get me. So let me call him again and explain myself well. So, and this is something I see even with our Father. If the Father tells you something, or Jesus Christ, and you don't understand it, you can go back to him and ask, Lord, what did you mean? Because even him himself, he is not just speaking something for him to be misquoted. And that's why he could expound the parables to the disciples, because he told the disciples, for you have been granted the grace of the Father's love to know the mysteries of the kingdom. And that's why I'm explaining them to you. So if there is something that either someone tells to you, you don't understand, or even the Lord himself tells you and you don't understand, go back to him and ask him, Father, what about this? Then I remember there is one writer, I was reading his book. I was just going through some of things that he wrote, and I think the Lord was trying, either it was him or part of the crowd of witness that was speaking with him, and he was speaking about communication. And he said, in heaven, the way heaven communicates is totally different the way we communicate here. And to me, I'm looking forward to a time when I speak a word, I'm not only communicating the words that I use, but communicating even with my spirit, such that when I'm saying something, you might misquote me, but your spirit, you'll tap my spirit and you really get that message. Because I ask myself, how was Jesus able to preach to 5,000 people without the technology that we have today? I don't know whether in the past I've gotten that revelation, but they used to come. So that is to me, they used to listen to him. 5,000. Look at Peter making a sermon and 3,000 people join him. How was he communicating? What were these people communicating? That is to mean we have to ask the Father, how do we communicate your way so that I'm not misunderstood and the message I'm giving to you, you get it clearly. So if there is this limitation of the fall of man, the Lord to help us to go above that, such that, and I believe this is the calling of sons of God for us as we follow him as our Father and being sons, is that we have to go higher, where what he speaks to us, we clearly gets it. And to me, I'm convinced in my heart that is what he wants. And then we are able to communicate with him, to communicate with one another. So maybe that could be my short input on that.
So good. I got a ton of things I could say and would love to say, but we'll save them. I'm sure others have a lot too. Thank you, Kamal. It's really good. Really good. Sheila or Liz or Martha, and I don't think Hadassah, you've said anything this round, have you? Don't think. So either any one of you four like to share? All right, I'm going to pick names if that's okay. You can say pass or no, but Liz, do you have anything you'd like to share or say or question?
I wanted to pass, but I'm really thinking about how sometimes it's good to express yourself. I don't know where you draw the line, or rather, I don't know where to draw the line where, for example, you're in a group where there's one lesson we learned about the deep wells, the stream,
Yeah,
and the hogs.
mm-hmm.
You know, when there's a hog in the group and this person really irritates you, how do you deal with it? I don't know. Do you, like Kamal is saying, do you speak to the father? Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm processing right now. How do you deal with that? Because sometimes it can get you, when it irritates you to a point that you don't even want to engage. Yeah, how do you deal with that?
A good question that I'm betting every one of us in this group deal with that. And some of you who speak a whole lot less are probably wondering, how in the world can that be? But now I forgot what I was going to say. Because you actually mentioned several things. But I guess that's one of the things, Liz, because I'm pretty sure almost every one of us deal with that a little bit in this group, at least a little bit, if not a lot. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess for me, the sign that I'm maturing in that area is that it really is not bugging me any longer. Now, does that mean there's not a problem? Because someone can still dominate, but can that person dominate and it not bother me? That's where I want to be. I want to be in a place where it doesn't bother me. And at that point, from a place of not being, angry, frustrated, or impatient with that person, but rather from a place of just, again, my divine identity, love, joy, peace, just being in that place where I'm not put off by what's going on, but I can also speak up against it. But I do so in love. It's like Kamal was speaking about Jesus, and when he spoke to the Pharisees and he called them hypocrites and a bunch of vipers and snakes, I'm like, I cannot think that he would do it any other way than in love. So does that mean he was lashing out at them in anger? I do not think so at all. But I believe he said those words because they were true. They were true at the time, that they were acting like hypocrites. They were acting like snakes and vipers, and they were being hypocrites. And he pointed it out very directly to them. And I do not believe he did it from a place of anger and frustration at them, but rather he did it from a place of love. It's like, you guys got to understand this. I had many opportunities when I was on that boat trip for a month with my friend, because he and I clash in several areas. And man, I had two opportunities where it finally got to a point for me that I had to say something. And I was happy with the fact that I did it with a whole lot less. Again, 10 years ago, probably would have been just beating the crap out of him physically. Because I was so frustrated with him. But I was able, on a scale of 1 to 10, having my, fight or flight, those juices going. I don't want them going. I don't think they should be going. Those fight or flight juices should not be going. If they are, then I'm probably not in that place of peace. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I felt like they were at a 1, which is a massive improvement for me. But they still need to be at 0, where I could just freely share what the truth is and still say it in love. So if I'm not in that place of perfect peace, then guess where the work needs to be at? I mean, I need to work on myself. I need to work on myself probably first, but there may be cases and situations where kind of need to work on both sides a little bit, but I really need to be more focused on what's going on in my heart and why, and take it to the Father. Let those triggers trigger me, and then take it to the Father. It's like, okay, I've been triggered, Father, something's going on. Can you show me what it is? I don't know if that helps or makes sense, Liz.
Sort of.
Say that again.
Sort of. Mhm.
Well, I would love to hear more, either on the question side or your thoughts.
Well, I guess there's a bit of immaturity when one person gets irritated. But how about when you expect someone to do something and they're not? Especially when the leader is more mature and they seem not to sense what is happening with the flock, so to speak.
Again, for myself, I would be asking myself first, are there any filters in me that, Father, you're using this situation to expose these things in me? Or is that, because to me, that would, in many cases, not in all cases, but in many cases, that might be more important than what's actually happening in that case. Now, if it's something that's detrimental to the whole group, then yeah, something probably needs to be said. But again, if we're triggered usually indicates that we're reacting and responding in a way that is not healthy. At least that's what it means in America. If you're getting triggered, it means you're generally, something's happening and you're just like, you just want to do whatever it is that's on your mind to do. versus when something happens. And in the identity conference that we did a few years ago, I used that pendulum idea. That whole pendulum idea is that when I'm able to meditate and pray and get myself into that place of peace and rest with Father, where the pendulum is just hanging straight down and it's not swinging, that's where I want to be. Because now I'm in a place where if something happens and I'm not responding to the world's swinging of the pendulum, but rather I'm just seeing the circumstance, I'm seeing the event through Father's eyes, I'm seeing how he's responding, then I can then choose to respond in the same way that he's responding. Jesus said he didn't do anything unless he saw his Father do it. So he saw his Father somehow speaking to those Pharisees. He saw that. So was the Father lashing out? Or was the Father speaking the truth in love? Which I believe that's what he was doing, obviously. But I do not believe he was there to deliberately swing those people's pendulum and just get them all riled up and escalate a situation to where there was an all-out brawl. Because the brawl didn't happen. Jesus tipped over money tables. He did a lot of things. And people were frustrated. They were shocked. He got their attention. But he didn't cause a brawl. He didn't escalate a situation. At least not that I can think of off the top of my head.
I hear you. Thank you.
I would love to hear more, Liz, if you got more. You got some good questions, good thoughts.
No, I think now my heart is settled. I get the direction. It's got to be done out of love.
Yeah, again, purpose of this group, that we learn to respond in love. We learn to love. And so in order to do that, we have to learn how to respond in love in every situation. So the questions you're bringing up, these are real, absolutely real. And I'd love even more pushback if you got more. And by pushback, I mean areas where either you're not seeing it or you disagree. Would love to hear it. I'm asking for it if you got it. I'm not
No,
meaning
no.
to. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. All right. So Hadassah, Sheila, or Martha.
I have more.
Okay.
I like to share. I like Liz's idea, question.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Thank you, Liz, for bringing it up. So, we are growing in love. And yes, we understand that things may trigger us, and I think we kind of learn, especially if you've been in transformations, it's like, yeah, the trigger, there's something behind the trigger. You have to look at it. It's like, at least for me, I kind of understand that pretty well now. But my question beyond that, okay, so you deal with the trigger and you talk to the father, something like what Mary was saying, you forgive, you ask the father, you deal with the issue and all of that. So you do all that work, but the issue still exists. Or the problem or the situation is still there. So, and again, this is a group that we talk about love. It is all good. And we all want to be loving and we all want to grow in love. But, and I know you mentioned it, there's got to be a time where you need to be addressing, confronting, speaking into the situation. After you realize, you were triggered and you have to deal with it and you're dealing with it. And it's like, so my question is like, kind of going, I don't want to go there. So it's, so what do we do? I mean, how do we address things where that it's not maybe the ideal, I don't know, let's call it a problem. Let's just leave it a problem. A problem, a trigger, that is there and it's not going away. It doesn't seem like, but you're still dealing with the issue yourself. So that's the continuation of Lisa's question.
So let me see if I understand. Let me ask a question for clarity then. Are you, now I've lost my train of thought. Okay, so you've talked, I thought you were talking about two things, maybe two different things, but one, when you try to deal with a problem, but it just persists. And then the other one, is that the main one?
No, that's one of them, sure.
Yeah,
and you're dealing with the, it's a trigger and you're asking, you're getting all this healing, and and love, but the problem's still there, it's not going away. So at some point, I believe it needs to be addressed, it needs to be spoken into. And let me just say something that I find interesting. You're saying that you don't like to confront. I'm the opposite.
Well, you know what? There we go. As the body, I'll call on you to do my confrontations for me.
I tell you, I mean, not that I like, but it's not in, I had a conversation with Adina about that, because I said, you know what? It's not hard for me to confront people if you do it in a healthy, equal way, like you speak, I speak, I'm not gonna, overwhelm you with all this, stuff. It's just, let's talk about this. I mean, let's have the way I see it is, like, let's have a conversation about it. It doesn't have to be because confrontation can come out as so negative and you're gonna take over and you're gonna do this, you're going to be mean. At least that's how I perceive it. Maybe I'm perceiving it wrong, but confrontation is, let's just have a conversation about the issue. You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to hear you. I want you to hear me. That's how I ended up with Adina talking about this. I said, it doesn't have to be this confronting
true.
thing in a negative way. But anyway, I love that. That's me.
Yeah.
I don't run away from an issue. You know, I, of course, you know, now with this new way of loving, you know, that I'm learning how to love people unconditionally. So yeah, I deal with the situation in my heart, bring it to the Father after prayer, after meditating, all of that. Then I'm ready to have a conversation with the person about the issue. You want to call it confrontation? Okay, it's called confrontation. That's, you know, if you're comfortable with that word. But that's for me how I am. And I don't want to avoid the situation.
Mhm.
I don't want to get angrier and angrier and angrier. I don't, because I've been there, and it's like, I don't like that. I'd rather deal with the issue now or whenever I'm ready, you know, my heart is ready. You know what I mean? Whenever I feel like
Yeah.
I'm ready to deal with now in love and in respect and in honor, but I cannot just avoid it and just ignore it and continue to be triggered with, you know, with that, especially as Liz talked about in a group like this. You're like, come on,
Yeah.
let's address it. In
No,
love,
and
but it needs to be stopped somehow, corrected, or however it is that it needs to be dealt with. Does that make sense?
So when you talk about the problem persisting, are you talking about the problem that needs to be confronted, or are you talking about issues within yourself that continue to persist?
That needs to be confronted.
Things have been, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, those,
I've already dealt with it. I'm working with the Father. I mean, you know, that I wanted to be, you know, very clear. After you deal with the Father, after you recognize it's a trigger, after you talk it over with the Father, after you're getting healing and deliverance from the trigger, let's talk about this in
Yeah.
love and in honor. Yeah. No. Yeah. The issue with Father in my heart, it's been dealt with, or been dealing with in the process of.
Yeah.
But the issue is still there.
So I've got things I could say, but if anybody's got things that they would love to share, then this is a group and I've been sharing a lot. So somebody else can jump in if they'd like to.
I would love to hear other people.
Mhm.
If they have any thoughts or questions, or even Liz to come back and, you know, I don't know what Liz was with all of that, but just what she said, it just helped me to say my piece. So if anybody else has anything else to say, I would love to hear it.
Okay, let me go first. I think what Hadassah has shared is really, really good because in a group setting, there are those ones who are anti-confrontation,
Mhm.
not because it's a bad thing, but they hope that someone else will do it. You know, when you see something that is not right, because really we are all a work in progress. So we all have some issues that the Father is dealing with. So I agree with Hadassah. I think the ones who are confrontational, they should do it, but from a place of love. And as much as we're giving room for love, I think, yeah, if there's an issue, it's got to be done. I used to be very confrontational until one day I made a lot of noise about a project. And that evening, the Lord was asking me, is it yours or is it mine? So from that time, I stopped being confrontational. But I realized that sometimes it makes me pull back so that if I see someone who's doing something that is not right in a team setting, I ask myself, whose is this? Is it mine or is it the Lord's? But if these are not people that I can talk to because they're not like people I can teach, I let it go. I hope that someone else will do it. So if there's no one else to tell them that, for example, you're hogging the time, it goes unsaid. And sometimes it makes me pull back. It makes me not give myself totally. Yeah. So I think it's good to have people like Hadassah, people who will confront, But now the question is, how does, anyway, when there's a hogger, everyone should know that this is a hogger. It's just that people are affected differently, but everyone can see that someone is hogging the time. So I have answered my own question.
Hey, Liz, now you got us all, especially those of us who talk a lot, you got us all thinking, oh no, am I the hogger? And you know what? I got a feeling that one of these sessions, we're going to have a talk about that specifically. And that, it's kind of, when I started this, what did I say? I said, I actually took the time and figured out, wait a minute, there's 8 or 10 of us. Anyway, it's about 15 minutes each. And a thought occurred to me. It's like, integrity wise, it might be good for each of us to keep our own little timer next to us. And when we start talking, we hit the button. And that way we know whether we're taking up more than our fair share. And we govern ourselves rather than everybody, trying to govern one another. Because then at the end, it'd be kind of fun. There you go.
I was very happy when you said that.
Liz, it's so interesting you brought that up. I'm glad you did, because I brought that up a few weeks ago about how I felt about a different group, and I wouldn't have talked about that today if you hadn't brought up that very topic. But I've been processing that for quite a while and asking, why does that bother me so much? And obviously one answer is because I know I can talk too much. So, but I'm thinking, like, are there other reasons too? Because like Gil, when you came on Sunday and you had something to say, I'm like, okay, either you had something very important you had to leave for, or you have the same problem I do and didn't want to sit through people who talk for 10 minutes at a time.
Oh, you mean on the tail end, you mean?
Afterburn, yeah.
Afterburn. Yeah, we already had people here, and I couldn't sit and wait and not pay attention to the people we had here. So I just put my comments in the section. I don't know if anybody saw them or not, but
No,
put them in there.
well, yeah. It's just, I thought, because I didn't know you had people, I thought, oh, I wonder if Gil has the same problem as me, that listening for 10 minutes to one person talk. Because what you said about keeping track, that when I brought up a few weeks ago about the Friday evening Ultimate Impact group, I just couldn't be bothered. But I was tempted to go back to the Ultimate Impact and record this, like write down the time. I know this person talked 11 minutes for sure at a time, but I was going to go back and count the total, like maybe 10 times and how many it added up to. But interestingly enough, with this particular person, I went from being so annoyed and irritated that I almost didn't want to be in any groups this person was in, to gaining a whole new appreciation for the person. So that in itself is a bit of a miracle in my own heart.
Well, I'm so glad you appreciate me now.
Gil, it wasn't you. You're not in the Friday evening Ultimate Impact group.
I just had to throw that in.
Yeah, and it's easy to, see now, it's not that the person has stopped talking as much, but if my attitude has changed, then it doesn't bother me as much, right? Because I think when you really love somebody, you want to hear what they have to say, and then it doesn't irritate you as much. So then I have to kind of process, why do certain people, yes, I just answered my own question. Just learn to love the people that irritate you when they talk too much, learn to love them more. So, okay, what I was going to share that I got during the time when we were, starting the group, I wrote down, you are my delight. I operate from a place of unentanglement, and I will unentangle you from everything that entangles you. So I thought that was pretty good. I like that. And
I like that.
When you asked us, to go somewhere with the Lord, where are we choosing to resist you? We weren't given much time to think quietly about it, so I didn't get a chance to write a lot. So just the first thing, I know I'm resisting in the area of trusting, But if I had more time, I'm sure I could come up with a whole bunch of other things where I feel like I'm resisting.
Well, and it's a good question for each of us to ponder with the Father when we have our quiet time. It'll be good. So, John, go ahead.
So Martha, did I talk too much today?
You're a lot better today, John, but yeah, I mean, totally frankly, in a lot of the Sunday groups, if I was going to start naming names, like Liz said, everybody's aware of who in these, like in the Sunday group, the gathering, the afterburn, the ultimate impact, every group, like Liz is absolutely right. You don't have to point it out. Right. And I know I'm guilty myself at times of talking too much. So, like, yeah, but I mean, that's why you have that lesson about hogs and streams. And for me, every time in the ultimate impact, and I've told the story so many times, you guys have probably all heard it before. The very first ultimate impact, Ken was taking it with me. We came to that lesson. He wanted to share something. I was so worried he'd be perceived as a hog. I said, don't say anything. And from then on, he never came on again. So I'm still so triggered by that. But I mean, now he's in heaven and having a good time. I'm the one who has to be here processing it.
So something that what you said, Martha, really proves the point that when we take the log out of our own eyes, then the logs basically disappear out of the other person's eyes. Jesus was very intelligent and smart, and he knew everything. So that's why he said, get rid of your stuff so that you can see clearly. Like I wrote in the chat there, that like Gil's always saying, come to zero. Joe Vitale has written a book, Zero Limits. So the whole goal of cleaning, what they call cleaning, is to come to zero so you can hear the Father.
Yeah.
That you can operate out of inspiration rather than out of the programming that is bugging you because of somebody else is drawing that reaction out of you. You don't even know where it comes from, why you're triggered. Many times we don't know why we're triggered, but it's often because of something that is in our subconscious that we're not even aware of. And when we ask the Lord to, like I've been doing it a lot. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. In fact, they've written a song about it. And I'm riding my bike and singing, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I was going along singing that. And I think it's cleaning my subconscious and letting my subconscious know that you can come out and reveal yourself so that you can be cleaned, and so that I can see other people more clearly and more lovingly and kinder. Like one of the things that triggers me is always my wife. Because when I say something, like one thing that triggers her is when I say something, well, I don't plan on dying. Well, John, cut that out. Don't say that. As well, then. So then I said, well, when I transition, wherever I'm going to transition to, I'm meaning whether I transition, stay here for an extended length of time, or if I transition into heaven or wherever. That seemed to help her a little bit.
Yeah.
But I know I can't talk about that without triggering her. So the only thing that's going to ever change that is that if she gets deconstruction of that whole belief system that says that we have to die and we have to, like, I remember one time she told a friend of mine that he wanted to pray for her to, so that her rheumatoid arthritis would, she said to him, no, I'm okay, I'm gonna die with this. So that's deep inside her, the aging thing, the, you know, you're gonna die from something. So I just have to stay away from that too. And clean myself so that I don't trigger her. And maybe that will go
Amen.
away when I come to the whiteboard being totally white clean, so that I can see her clearly, or everybody else clearly, that it doesn't trigger me into saying something that will be damaging or hindering them from, say, non-Christians, hindering them from coming to know Jesus, coming into that love relationship that I have with him.
Yeah, yeah. It's good. Thank you, John. Sheila, we've not heard from you yet. Would you like to share anything? Any areas that you're aware of that you're resisting, Father, or questions or comments?
I'm sorry, I was really excited about putting my camera on today, and then our Wi-Fi started having problems. So if I put on my video, I won't be able to speak.
No worries.
Yeah,
It was
You're
good to see you for a little
beautiful.
bit.
thank you. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
I haven't been on for 2 weeks, so I was just trying to listen to what was going on. The past 2 weeks have not been the easiest for me, and I kind of keep on going back to when we were starting to think of the theme of the continuation of the Zooms, and Mr. Gill got that word for me that maybe I would fuss and fight, and I didn't know if this past 2 weeks were me fussing and fighting, trying to be on the group. I thank God it wasn't. My fussing and fighting is internal, in the sense that in the past 2 weeks I've been having a lot of days where I would sit and the Lord just tells me, you know, you need to love yourself, and I get really frustrated because I don't know how to do it. And I think that's what I can say, because I got confused in the middle when you were talking about the irritation that people get from the group. I don't know. I can go quiet and listen to what people have to say, because I feel like on my end I talk a lot, and I feel like sometimes it's just good to listen to what people have to say. On the irritation part, I can say that I understand, because sometimes I just assume that the leader is wise and all-knowing and all, you know,
Thank you.
able
Thank you,
to
Sheila. I
handle
appreciate
a
that.
group. Exactly. It's like knowing a group of people and how their personalities are. I think when I was a leader, I used to want to figure out each and every personality so that we can be able to, you know, kind of tune and fine tune the group of people that are around us, so that everybody feels like they can get something out of it. Now, it's very worrying when you're in a group like Madam Martha is, and it's like the leader isn't noticing that this person has talked for 11 minutes. I mean, I'm just thinking, I mean, that just seems off. But then, because this is grace and it's not perfectionism, like how we came from the tree of knowledge, it feels right for it to kind of be brought to the leader, because you can do that. Yes, when you can do that, you tell the leader. I feel like 11 minutes is somewhat, I mean, some people have blind spots, and some people don't understand their blind spots, and some people are not really interested in knowing their blind spots, because if they do, it just kind
You are
of
very wise,
becomes
Sheila.
we thank God. This is basically the Holy Spirit, because I've come to realize that sometimes people, once they figure out their blind spots, it becomes a sense of rebuttal or some sort of resistance, and it becomes more of a fight, and they're not really interested in trying to figure out, why did this person say this, because they feel attacked. And sometimes it's just better that they don't know it at all. Sometimes it's wise to use your actions, or maybe to use a different way. There are a lot of languages, but human beings, we have kind of centered our words by form of mouth. I think sometimes you can even just give a body language and you say, okay, time's up, time's up. Like put your hand on. I wish I could put my video up. I'm sorry. But then you get what I'm saying. There are other ways aside from just using your word of mouth to kind of relay the information that you're trying to get.
Yeah.
People are really smart, smarter than we give them credit for. Sometimes they'll just feel the energy going off. Sometimes they'll feel, oh my gosh, I've talked too much. Sometimes they feel, oh, I let it out. And I'm happy that the other person has grace to listen. So I really don't know about that. But yeah, I've been in a very interesting season for the past 2 weeks, and I can't say I'm okay yet. And that's all I can say. And when we ascended and you said you need to make the choice to rest, I was getting frustrated because I'm just asking God, why is this happening to me? I mean, I'm not the best human being, yes, Lord, and I sin 24/7, but give me a break. I'm tired. I'm going through a lot. But then coming here actually is one of the highlights of my week.
Good.
It coming here and seeing all of you, all 8 of you, makes me very happy. And at least I can go back and be like, oh, okay, I saw my friends. I'm gonna be okay. We can push through just to wait for another Thursday. So yeah,
So,
that's
so
all I
And
Sheila,
you
have
are
how
to
can
okay.
say.
Sheila, how can we pray
Yeah.
for you? You had a family meeting last week. How can we pray for you to cover you and to encourage you and go to the Father on behalf of your family?
Well, right now we're in between crossroads. My parents want us to move, and I don't think it's time for us to move. My dad wants a better space for us, obviously, because he's a good father, but I feel like he's rushing it. On top of the enmeshment that we have some sort of weird family dynamic. I think it's called parental inversion, something of the sort. And it's kind of draining and weighing down on me and my siblings, especially my elder sister, since we're the eldest. And we're going through a few things, kind of like coming to the realization that things are not how they have been, and that things that will need us to make certain decisions if we're supposed to move forward in our lives. And that's really scary. I've never made a decision once in my life. I mean, yeah, I can pick out what I want to wear and what I want to cook for dinner, but I've never had to make a decision about where I'm going to stay or who am I going to decide is going to be a part of my life. I kind of just felt like these things, my parents would always do them for me because it's always been that way. But now, how our situation is, it's become very toxic. I'm sorry to say that. It's it's become too much, and we need to kind of give each other a breather or a space to kind of reflect on each other's identity and life, and kind of let God come and shine his light in between all of us. Because there's a lot of pain, and when you're in pain, you don't really realize when you're hurting someone else. And decisions still have to be made. But if God is a God of all comfort, he says in the book of, I think, First Thessalonians, that he is a God of all comfort. So that would mean that eventually, even in the painful decisions that we have to make, being in his perfect will is all that matters. So if you can pray for peace, clarity, redirection, and above all, just for us to know him as a father and to understand his love for us so that we can be able to learn how to love ourselves, I think that would be really great, because I think all our situations just boil down to love. We can kind of give them different situations, oh, finances and trauma and all that, but all these things just resort back to love. If we loved ourselves as the Lord loves us, then half of our situations, not even half, all our problems would be solved. But because we were not able to learn those lessons because of the trauma that we have been through, I feel like we missed out on a lot. But because He is the Redeemer of time, He will bring us close to Him to learn.
Yeah.
So may God also fill
So
us with patience to learn, because that's also something else that I feel like we need. Because in this season, I feel like I've been rushing God. I've been telling Him, you know what? Okay, I did this classes like you told me to since November. I feel like there's a change. I have clarity every time we ascend. I can hear you. I have people who love me. So why not we get this on the road? But then I come back like 2 weeks ago when I had my breakdown. I wasn't able to move. I wasn't able to cry. I wasn't able to feel any emotions. And I was angry that I wasn't able to do the right thing despite knowing to do the right thing. And I feel like maybe that was tree of knowledge of good and evil. And I kept on hearing the Holy Spirit tell me, be patient. Just wait on me. I'm doing something in you. I want to change you. You're not giving me the time. And I'm like, I thought I give you time. And it's like, you have been through trauma for the past 23 years of your life. There is no good thing that you know. So these small glimpses of life that I get to see of healing and transformation is not all there is to it yet. But my body and my spirit and my soul don't really understand that yet. And because you crave and crave more, I wasn't giving God time. So I'm not sure if the rest of my family members might be going through the same thing, but I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that they are, because we get this high from God and then we think, oh, if we're sorted, we're healed, now we can move and we can become better people. But then we go back to this cycle where we can't pray, where we can't read the Bible. Where I am right now, basically, because I've been binge eating and binge watching and listening to music that I shouldn't be listening to. But these are things that used to make me feel really nice about myself. I've shut off my phone. I actually didn't want to come for the group, but then I've missed you guys. So that's very interesting because no one has had that kind of impact in my life. But yeah, that's a side note. I'm not picking up phone calls. I'm not doing anything. I'm currently not even at home. I came to visit my aunt because her home is a bit peaceful and, better off.
So Sheila, let us
Yeah.
engage with you and for you. And I would encourage you just to get as comfortable as you can, get into a place of your bodily rest, and so that your spirit can rest. And then as we engage with you, just listen to what the Father has to say to you, okay? All right.
Can you listen for me, please?
Well, that's what I'm talking about, is we're going to share our
Thank you.
Father's heart to our heart to your heart. Put it that
Okay.
way. All right. So Father, Sheila, I just felt specifically that we're going to engage with the Father. And I know that right off the bat, Sheila, Father is just telling you to just take some deep breaths, just stop, hold on, wait, just stop, just rest. That rest is just taking the deep breath, and you're just going to let everything go. Every thought that comes to your mind, good or bad, just let that go to the Father, because all you're doing right now is you're going to just be sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into the Father's heart, his pure heart of love, and just listen to what the Father has to say to you. So anyone and everyone, just share what Father's giving you.
Sheila, as you were speaking, I just kept hearing over and over again that you are a good disciple. You have the heart of a learner. And yes, you will make mistakes. And Jesus doesn't mind you making mistakes because he loves you. If you look at how he dealt with Peter the one who preached and 3,000 souls came to Christ after he denied him 3 times. He loved him, and that's how he sees you. He sees you as a beautiful daughter who is pleasing to him. You are pleasing to the Lord. The Lord is saying, I'm pleased with you. Continue to draw near to me, and I am right there with you.
Mhm. So Sheila, I see you, I see chaos all around you, but I see you're just like you're sitting right in the eye of the storm where there's peace. You're rightly centered in the Father's heart. And that if you can just let go, it's like you keep wanting to put your hands into the storm. You're in the eye of the storm where there's peace, but you keep wanting to put your hands, you stick your hands into the sides of the storm. And it's like you keep getting bit. And Father's saying, just rest, just rest. Just put your arms down to your side, take some deep breaths, and you can, for the moment, especially this moment right now, you can ignore all that chaos around you and just sink deeper into the Father's heart. Let it go.
I just see a picture of a bird sitting in a tree, and with its head under its wing, just relaxing and resting, not too worried about the storm. Trusting the Father, He will take care of you. He feeds the sparrow, so He will take care of you.
Hear the Father saying to you, Sheila, you don't have to figure this out. He's already got a plan. He has a plan. The deeper you rest into his heart, the easier it's going to be for you to see what he's doing. Continue to step back. Take a step back in the spirit. Just take a step back. Keep stepping back until you're completely at rest. You're at peace because you're far enough away from all the chaos and everything going on in the spirit that you can just rest. And as you rest there, you will begin to see what the Father's doing. You'll see the answers coming.
How can I do that physically?
Say that
I
again.
feel like how can I do that physically? Because most times when I pray, I tell him I've given it to you. But every time I go back, he's telling me you haven't given it to me. And I don't know how to give it because I ask and I get interesting answers. Like there was a time she told me that my emotions were imbued in the chaos. So it's kind of like I've not released my emotions completely. Like I've released the situation, knowing full well that I can't do it. But then because I'm still thinking about it.
Let's
But
try
then even when
something.
I stop thinking about it, he says I need to give it to him. So I'm really confused.
Let's try something, okay? I want you just one word at a time, maybe 2, but only one word at a time. Just share with me the emotion that you're feeling. First thing that pops to your mind.
Right now?
Yep.
Anger.
Anger. Okay, so in that place, are you in a place physically where you're resting? Right.
Yes.
Okay, I just want you to take a deep breath, and as you're letting that breath out, I want you to just say, I let this go. And I want you to keep saying it. Focus on the anger. I let it go. I'm letting it go. I let this go, Father. I lay it at your feet. I let this go. Keep doing that till you feel like you've let it go.
Okay. Lord, this thing.
Deep breaths. Let the air out slow. Let it go. Keep saying, I let it go. I let it go. I lay it down. I give it all to you, Father. I let go. And even if you have to make the motion with your hands, just I let go. Take another deep breath. I let it go. You feel like you've let it go?
I feel like that, yeah. But then I'm also feeling scared that I haven't really let it go. Because every time I'm supposed to let it go and I do, I'm told that I haven't let it go. So I'm
Okay,
not
well,
really sure.
yeah. Don't worry about what other people say. Just right now, what do you feel? Do you feel like you've been able to let it go to a large degree?
Yes, not all of it,
Okay.
but most of it, yes.
Okay, it's a big improvement. So just leave it there. Just in the spirit, you're going to leave it there. Just let it go. And when you begin to operate, when you step outside of your room, or you begin to think of things and that starts to pop up again, just remind yourself, I let it go. I let that go. I put it at the feet of Jesus. I'm not picking it back up. I let it go. I'm leaving it
Okay.
there.
Okay.
You're just going to keep doing that. Every time it pops up, I let it go. I let it go. No matter how many times you have to say it, just keep saying, I let it go. I leave it at your feet, Jesus. It's all yours. And you're backing away from it. You lay it down at the feet of Jesus and you're stepping away from it. You're letting it go. You're not going to let it rule and reign in your life. You are in control and you are choosing love, joy, and peace. Those are the entities that you want to engage with, not that anger. You want to engage and enjoy the presence of love, joy, and peace. Speak to them. Invite them into your heart, your life. Just tell them, love, I want you to be everything in my life. Joy, I want everything to be permeated with you. Peace, I want everything to be coming from that place of rest. I want you.
Yeah.
I engage with you, and every time anger pops up, I let it go and I turn to love, joy, and peace. You do that in the spirit, you turn, even if you have to do it in the physical, you turn and you face love, joy, and peace. You invite them to come and fill every fiber of your being, even down to your toes, the top of your head, every fiber of your being. Just let it fill you up because that's what you want. That's who you are. The anger is not going to control you or manipulate you any longer. You let it go. And just breathe in and breathe out slowly. Let every little bit of that anger out. Get rid of it all. Let it all go. Don't hold on to any of it anymore. Those breaths are vital. So no matter what you're doing, walking through the hallways or talking to somebody, you realize you're getting stressed or getting angry, deep breath, let it go. Get rid of it and turn to love and joy and peace. Engage them and look to see what the Father's doing in those places. See how you can respond and touch whatever situation you're in with love. How can I respond with love in this situation? What does it look like to respond in love in this situation? To know that everything's going to be okay. It may not feel like it. It may not feel comfortable right now with what's going on, but you know, Sheila, you know, everything's going to be okay. If you get frightful about the idea that everything's going to be okay and you're not sure, deep breath, let that go, because it is going to be okay. Just let it go. And keep letting it go. Keep engaging with love and joy and peace. Let them come in. Let them have their way with you, because you are inviting them in to have love, joy, and peace in your life. And you can smile about that because it's going to be good. It is good. Just rest. Because he's got you covered. You know you can trust him, right?
That's another thing we're working on.
Say that again.
That's another thing we're working on.
Trust.
Yeah.
See, that's going to come a little bit. In fact, it's going to come completely from who do you think God is? But yes, totally understand. We've all got areas in our life. There was definitely a big time where I did not trust him, but I do now.
I don't know how you trust. So, okay, I thought I trusted God until last week. And last week I had a breakdown and I needed to talk. And obviously, I feel like everything you're saying, I know with my mind. I just don't know it with my heart. I don't know if that makes sense. Have you guys ever experienced that kind of? Anyway, so I had a breakdown and I wanted to talk to my friend, but why did I think of my friend first before I thought of the Lord? And that got me thinking. And I wanted to ask God why I didn't think of him first. And that's the first time I think it made me know that I don't feel safe because I don't trust the Lord. And that was very scary.
So we took up a fair amount of time with the group here. And I'm hoping that was okay, everyone. And hoping that maybe what I just did is, because I mean, that's the process I go through. So when I'm dealing with something, I do the same thing. I process that just by letting go, continue to let go. My morning time is usually spent asking Father, what are the things I'm still holding on to that I need to let go, good and bad, because I want to let go of everything so that pendulum's just hanging straight down, completely at rest. I'm not jazzed up and excited about something, and it's okay to be, have hope. That's, a big part of our life that comes in Christ. But I'm not jazzed and so excited that I'm like crazy looking forward to, something, so much so that what happens if it doesn't happen? Big disappointment. But I can look forward to things and have hope that, this is the direction I'm headed. This is the path I'm on. This is exciting. That's exciting. But specific outcomes, expectations often leads to disappointment. So even on the positive side, negative side, same thing, letting it go. I'm not going to fear things that, our financial situation isn't the best right now, but I don't fear it. I don't fear it at all. I'm perfectly expecting that my Father is going to do something great. Now that's an expectancy because my hope is in him and not anything else, not any outcomes. It's just in him. And so for me to get centered in that place and live my day through that place, so much better than if I let something swing me one way or the other. Now some people, I used to be a melancholy, or not melancholy. What's that word? Depression and then excitement. What's that called?
Bipolar.
Bipolar.
Oh,
Or what was the other word I heard?
I said sanguine.
Oh, it's the bipolar
combination.
thing, to where you're
Yep.
super excited one minute and super depressed.
Manic depressants.
Manic depressant, yeah, a lot of different terms. I think they all may have a little bit different meaning, but we get the idea. I used to be very much that way, super excited about something, then if it didn't come through, super depressed. But now I look to live my life right here, because here's peace, here's love, joy, and peace right here. You know, I can be excited about the path I'm on, the path I'm on and the direction I'm going is right here. I can be super excited because this keeps my hope in him, versus getting super excited about that outcome or super depressed about something I'm worried about. Just focused on him, keeping my hope there. So, I mean, that's a good part of my morning, is just, what am I swinging the pendulum on here, Father? Let's lay those things down and flow with what you're doing. There's so much perfect flow in what Father's doing. It's awesome to be right there. All right, I'm done. Sheila, if you want to meet with me at another time, I'd be happy to go over some of these things if you'd like.
Sure. Love it. Thank you.
All right, shoot me an email, Sheila, and we'll set up a time, okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
I would love to do that. You're welcome. All right, anybody else got anything before we wrap up?
Yeah, Diane was gonna say something to Sheila.
Okay. No, go ahead, Diane.
Diane, come on. I saw exactly when you unmuted yourself to say something. No.
Yeah, it's all good.
No,
It's all
please
good.
go ahead.
I just was going to read this. I pulled out this book this week for a different reason, but I've been getting whacked for other reasons. Lost in Translation, Rediscovering the Hebrew Roots of Our Faith, which is a book that was actually on Chris Carter's site for a while. It's about understanding the Hebraic roots of the Bible and how we can really miss so much in translation when we don't frame everything or understand what the idioms and the language of the original writers were. But the point is this: the word shalom in Hebrew, the Hebrew letters, the pictographs actually mean this, Sheila, which is shalom. The definition of that word is destroy the authority that binds us to chaos. And so I would just want to release the shalom of the Prince of Peace in the other scripture. And I don't know if it's interpreted right now after reading this, but the God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet. And in that context, it is the shalom, the Prince of Peace, who can sleep in the boat that's being tossed about in the storm, comes to release the authority that binds your life and that of your families to chaos. And I just release that over your heart, over your spirit, over your soul, over to every aspect of your being that has only learned you have to take care of yourself or protect yourself or know all the answers or have all the answers to all the questions. And it's okay. And I also want to say, on a side note, you're an amazing, beautiful, very mature in so many levels and layers, daughter of the King. You are phenomenally beautiful. And there's way more to you than you see, but we see it.
Yeah.
And you're stunning in your capacity to even process your journey through this place. But the whole point of this process is getting to the place of peace and rest that we all are fighting to learn how to function in. You're not alone in it. And some of us just disguise it better.
So good, Diane.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. Love you all. I am going to try to figure out something. If anybody has any ideas, I mean, we can we can maybe try to use a timer for ourselves, but I think there might be a timer that I can get as a plugin on Zoom. I'll see if I can do that. Because I know none of us think we talk a lot until we, go back and look at how much we talked. And I know I do that. I mean, Adina at least reminds me quite often that's how often I do that. So anyway, well, I'll see if I can figure out something to do, because I think that would help all of us relieve a little stress, when we get into those situations. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking and love you all. We'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.